Welcome to everyone joining the How to Prepare for a Virtual American Advertising Awards, part of the Evolve District 3 conference. Today, John Howard from AAF Charlotte, he will be going through how to basically prepare for the year, tips and tricks. Last year, we at the district level did have to prepare for a hybrid judging experience, which he'll kind of explain what that entailed and how that went. John is not only the president of AAF Charlotte, he is the District 3 American Advertising Awards chair and also serves as the District 3 representative on the National American Advertising Awards Committee. So he is, safe to say, an expert. During this session, we do ask that you put your phones or computers on mute so there's no interruptions, but please, we do want it to be an open conversation. Ask questions, use the chat, whatever feels comfortable. And then we will stop after 45 minutes because we got a lot to cover today. So John, take it away.
Thanks, Danielle. That's a really nice introduction. I guess I've done it now quite a few number of times. So I guess expert, maybe not expert, maybe just been around the block a few times, and I've enjoyed the awards experience. So this is one of the best parts about the District 3 Leadership Conference is the awards part of it, because it's certainly one of the most important parts to a club. The awards accounts for a lot of return people. It accounts for financially a successful club for the year. And so tips and tricks is typically how we go about this. And there will be lots of tips and tricks, but there's also going to be a different format to this year as opposed to previous years, because this year it's a whole new ball game, so to speak, because we're going into a new world of virtual. Why did I say virtual? Well, just like Danielle said, earlier in the year, we had to host the judging for the District 3 entries virtually. It was right at the beginning of COVID, and we realized that we had to...
Like, no. Well, then I was like, getting so down.
Oops, I think we got somebody's voice.
I discovered I can mute people, so we're good.
Hey, Catherine. So we realized very quickly that we had to do a virtual judging, and I had never done that. And luckily, Danielle was able to virtually call in as well, and the judges all were able to do this too. And we found the whole experience quite new experience. It worked out great. You know, the judges were able to look at things digitally, but there was, of course, there's a big part to the entries, which is physical media. So if you could imagine my living room with about, I don't know, a couple hundred entries scattered all around the place and showing each of the judges up, on the screen what the entry was. It was unique, it was interesting. And so when we started to discuss all of this, Danielle and I, we realized that due to the current coronavirus pandemic, the awards that are going to be done typically in February, or the gala, I should say, and entry pickup at the beginning of January, that we're going to be going into a period of time where, due to state guidelines, that we're going to still have to be stay at home possibly. And how do you go about doing that in a virtual sense? So with that in mind, we decided to make this presentation all about virtual and how to prepare to not host an in-person gala awards, and potentially also handle a virtual judging, and how do you deal with entries, and how do you develop actual theme and a gala theme for something. And of course, this also speaks to the actual gala location. How do you do a gala without location? All those things were things that we started talking about. So essentially, there's always going to be a plan. And so plan A, plan B, and plan C, pick your choice. Plan A typically is how we do it in person. And so there is a separate deck. I'm not going to go to that deck for this presentation. We'll probably provide it to everybody after the conference. And that deck has all the tips and tricks of how you do an in-person awards show. Everything is in there from everything from timestamps when you need to have things ready by to where you need to have things in consideration as you go through the year. But that's not what this is about. This is about virtual. And there's also Plan C, because we don't know what the future is going to hold. There might be a miracle drug tomorrow, and everything will be back to normal by next week Tuesday. I would love for that to happen, because COVID is messing it up for everybody. But that doesn't seem like it's going to be happening anytime soon. So best approach right now is to take the virtual approach. And then as time goes by, we'll see how it is, and then you'll make the best choice for your club. So if we go down the road of virtual, what does that look like? Well, the first thing is Judges Weekend. That might have to become a virtual Zoom weekend. That might be literally you sitting in a room with all your entries, and having the judges look at it from their laptops, from their home, and going through it piece by piece. If you host a preview party, it might become an online forum, for example. And then, of course, the gala, if it becomes a virtual gala, how do you do that? How do you provide the high level of quality that our members want to see? They want to see a great experience. They want to feel like their work is being represented in a great way. How do you go about doing that? And I don't know if you guys saw the national awards. That was done due to COVID, all done virtually. And they did a pretty good job of showcasing the work and all the pieces, and actually had some nice moments where Steve Pacheco spoke to the audience, as well as Donna Reeves, and that made a difference. So start thinking about, how would you host a gala virtually? How would that work? So what are the things that stay the same? I could think that's the first place you all need to start. Well, there still needs to be a theme. You still need to develop a theme for your show. That stuff has not changed. You still need to promote it. We still need to get the audience to participate in the Addies, and we need to get the entries. Because again, more entries mean more success for the general community, as well as financially more money to help your club. We still have to have entry taken days. That's
helps. This sentence is...
Hello. So we still need to have a take entry in there. And what does that mean? So physically, we still need to have a place where people can drop off their physical entries. Even though everybody's working from home, they're still printing stuff. Stuff is still physically being created, not just digitally. So we're still gonna have to have a take-in day. And it's still required to do a thorough judging experience. So, it might not be the most easiest way of doing it, but it still needs to happen. And there is a way to do it. And lastly, the winners still need to be awarded in the most professional manner possible. What does that mean? Well, winners, they expect to see their work shown on screen and promoted and they need to see it in a way that they feel like it's getting the justice it deserves. And lastly, of course, they need to be awarded with the actual trophies. They still want to get everybody loves a trophy. Everybody loves a trophy. So they still need to get them, and how do you go about doing that? So what's the difference between the two of them? Well, the dates are still the same. They're still planning these to happen between July and September. So we're in the thick of it right now. I hope that everybody has already started their planning process. Planning speaks to figuring out your budgets, figuring out potentially what your theme is, starting to get your vendors all lined up. Then it needs to have October through December, a launch. Now, even before COVID, there was still a launch to get the theme out there. So those e-blasts, those social posts, those website updates. You might typically do posters, printed posters and whatnot. That might have to change because people might not be in their offices. November through December, intake for students and for professionals. That still needs to happen. So that's not going to change. Of course, January is when we get to the virtual judging part. I just mentioned that earlier, and we'll speak more to that in a second. And then the gala. The gala is going to still have to happen. So let's talk about the planning. I've broken all of these 8 out into different pages, so I'll go into them in more detail. But these are the things that you might want to consider for your gala awards and for your general entry. What's the word again? For your general enter of entries. That's the way to say it. Okay. So the first one is call for entries, poster, and social costs. I was just alluding to the fact that everything is done virtually as well, leading up to December, end of December. But with people working 50-50 from home and companies not really being staffed, is it make sense to still do posters or mailers? It might not be the most effective. So in that case, you might consider doing an online experience to help promote the awards. You might consider doing a special website for your awards gala, something more unique, as well as on your current website. But something to take the theme, if you take the theme and you can promote it on a website in a cool, fun way, that's a great way to drum up interest and help promote your entry intake. And of course, utilizing your social channels in a more robust way. We all use our social channels on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, but we might have to get a little smarter about how we do it. Might need to consider doing more tricks that Facebook and Instagram offers, be it slideshows, be it 3D elements, be it whatever. Might have to consider how taking your theme and your show concept and blowing it out on social channels in a much more interesting, unique manner. The Judges Weekend. Well, if you're doing it virtually, there's no travel or hotel expenses. So most likely you don't need to travel, and that way you'll just have to focus on using your Zoom potentially for judging the physical entries. Of course, they can judge their digital entries ahead of time. That's never changed. That's still the same. So that could still be done like previously, but might have to consider using Zoom to do your physical entries. And another note here, a good little tip, provide written descriptions. This isn't just for professionals, but this is especially important for students. Providing a written descriptions can help the judges who won't be able to hold the entry. We found this happen a lot during the District 3 judging. There was a lot of people that provided these pieces, and it was a kind of a head scratcher what the purpose of the entry was. And having a simple little description with each of your entries would make a huge world of difference to help the judges make an appropriate decision. Preview party. Well, if there's no preview party, then there's no need to pay for the venue and expenses with that preview party. Social gatherings in close proximity might not be allowed due to the NC requirements right now, and Virginia and South Carolina, I should say. So maybe an alternative approach would be to create an online experience with your entries by using Pinterest or something else. Something to drum up interest in the entries and for the gala. It's always a great way to get people to participate between January and February with that. And then next, entry fees, intake versus non-member and members. So this is a kind of a big deal, and it's possibly the one thing that would be the most effective leading into the virtual show approach. So for non-members, there's no real change. The prices of each entry stay the same. No big changes there. And so a nice little helper would be to do an early bird drop-off in December. I've seen about a third of our entries in Charlotte agencies take use of that early bird approach because it's a huge savings. $10 off an entry if you're entering 40 entries, that's $400. So agencies do take use of that. So I would highly suggest using the early bird drop off. Also, another great idea is if you have time between once you receive all your entries by December 1st or 3rd, whichever date you choose, and you have time between then and your judging, let's say it's been done 2 weeks later, you could consider doing a bonus virtual drop-off, which would mean after your main drop-off, you could promote the idea of doing extension for digital drop-offs. Digital drop-offs are a great way for still get some last-minute entries and to grow your number of entries that you received. So regarding your membership, now most clubs with their membership receive extra gala tickets, as well as the entry fee discounts. With no gala show, though, so no physical place, how does your membership still receive the same amount of quality for what they've paid for? Since we're not paying for a gala venue, we could use the profits from the entry intake to help discount their entries even more. So suggestion is maybe if an entry of, I'm going to say a number of $100, and typically your membership gets $10 off in that, well, maybe you could do a larger percentage. Maybe it's up to 30%. So instead of them dropping off an entry for $100, it could be $70. And you could simply communicate to your membership that due to the coronavirus and having to do a virtual gala show, that there could be a higher break for them on their entries. And that's a way of showing appreciation towards your membership, giving them something special, and they would absolutely take use of that, because you hear every year the question of the amount of entry intake. And so this is a great way to do that. Of course, there is still the fees towards national and district for forwarding. So that would have to be taken into account. But if you remember that the total number, I'm going to go to the next page. National requires, it's $19 per entry. And then for golden forwarding to D3, it's $85 or $95 for campaign. Well, the typical ratio is about 20 to 25% of the entries entered win an entry. So if you think about the numbers, and math is not my greatest suit, but the numbers would show that with a large volume of entries, with the profit that you make from them, doing a discount, that might be a little bit, which, let's say, for example, you're only charging $75 for a single entry, and you're paying an extra $10. If you look at the larger sum of the total entries that you've received. So all I'm saying is essentially look at possibly ways to discount their entries, because that might be a huge bonus for your membership. Gala awards venue, food entertainment, as I mentioned. If there's no venue, there's no need to pay for it. So there's a huge savings in not paying for the gala show. So how do you still provide the prestige of an awards event online and still make it entertaining? I mentioned earlier AAF National. They did theirs pre-recorded, and they had moments during the show where Steve Pacheco and others spoke as they went into each section of the show, and that helped elevate it. That helped it seem like it wasn't just a slideshow. That you could still potentially use an entertainer. You could potentially use great speakers or community leaders in your city by pre-recording them and using them as segments of the show. Of course, the work is the most important thing. So we want to showcase their work really well. I believe the national pre-recorded show was about 2 hours long, quite a long show, a lot of video. So making sure that the work is shown in the highest level is super important, but they also want the theme to come into it, that people expect like a nice little intro towards the actual show itself. All those things can be done through partnerships to elevate the whole experience of the award show gala. And then the next point is winner's book and trophies. Not every club does a winner's book. In Charlotte, we do. But without doing a virtual show, how does the winner's book work? Well, in some cases, no change. You could do a PDF. That's also an option. Or you could do a dedicated landing page for all the entries. That's always an option. It all depends on what your community typically expects. In Charlotte, they typically expect a book, and we probably still create a book. We'd have to somehow do a mailing or pickup time for their books, maybe when they get their trophies. That's always a great way because everybody wants their trophies. I've never seen anybody forget their trophy. So with their trophies, you could easily provide them with winners books because they still expect that. Last but not least is the shipping cost of forward to D3. Forwarding entries is still due to D3 by March 15th. The location is still to be determined. We'll know what that is as we get close to that date. The Judges Weekend expected to be done virtually. We'd be done March 27th, and then we forward on the national entries to by D3 to national April 15th. So these are a list of resources. This deck will be provided to you all after we've finished the conference. So these are great things to use as resources, AAF.org. I know it's a tricky website to navigate, but there is a ton of good stuff in there. Everything from finding judges to best practices with doing the judging itself, to seeing how other clubs do it. All sorts of really good stuff is there. Everything from finding, as well as the rules and categories, the how-to guides, order forwarding procedures, judging rules, as well as many, many, many other things, as well as marketing materials to actually promote your Addies itself. The AAF National came out with, last year with new awards marketing materials, which if you don't have anything, they're super easy to use, provided in layered fashion so that you can utilize it for what's best for your club. And of course, there's the, what's it called now? Open Water, that's it. Open Water is a great tool. It seems a little complicated, but there's a help desk on their websites that is there, especially during January, December and January. They are incredibly respondent to you. So if you have any questions, I've used it many, many times. Sometimes I've screwed something up by putting the wrong date. They help me fix it. They're super easy to work with, and they're very attentive. The last but not least section, National Incentive Package. This was started last year, and I would suggest you guys take good use of this. The club in each AAF division is with the greatest percentage increase year over year in total number of entries will have AAF annual dues, will have its AAF annual dues 100% waived for the following year. Take that into consideration for a second. 100% waived for the following year. That is a huge bonus to your club. And then the 5 clubs, regardless of the division, the greatest percentage increase in total number of entries will receive 2 tickets to Add America, plus 4 nights of conference hotel stay, as well as air travel compensation. That's just a super cool thing. Everybody should get a chance to go to Add America. But note, if Add America this year was switched to virtual, so nobody was unfortunately able to go to it. But I believe that they provided to AAF Midlands a cash reward of the same amount. So AAF Midlands got a huge bonus in cash, which was a huge, cool factor for their club. Congrats to them. So that's me. I've kept it short and sweet. I'm John Howard. As I said in the very beginning, that actual email address is wrong. I guess I didn't. But the one typo in this whole deck, it was my own email address. Typical. So yeah, that's the general presentation.
Excellent. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to go off mute, type them in the chat box if you don't want to let us hear your voice. But for the time being, John, since we actually experienced what it was like to do hybrid judging, I know that there are a lot of people, especially those who have been doing American Advertising Awards judging for a long time, that have a lot of concerns about having judging that's not in person. You and I, both being art directors, we understand the need of it to be in person, but I wanted to know if you can kind of give your opinion on why hybrid was still successful even though we weren't able to do it in person.
It's a great question. We had a lot of trepidation going into it because we'd never really done it before. I'm using the word hybrid as absolutely the appropriate word to use for this because there was still a need to showcase the physical pieces. So those mean my apartment with all the scattered entries everywhere, showing it to the judges on the screen. And it worked because the judges had already first seen about a third or more of the entries virtually through digital. So they had already been provided with all the websites, videos, whatnot. So there was already a comfort level going into it that they had at a 30% level of what the general market work was. Then what we did afterwards was we made sure we went through every entry, so we went through every envelope and pulled out each physical entry. If there was a written description, we read it to the judges, and we took time to showcase the physical entry, and that was done by me. And then you, on the other hand, was on the back end of everything, trying to help them with scoring, which is hugely helpful. And in that sense, from a hybrid standpoint, it really worked well. Is it easy? Is it always easier with more than one person? Absolutely. I think had we had more people, we would have had a bit more organization with the room, but otherwise it was pretty good, I thought, overall.
I agree. And I will add to that, if your club judging chair isn't a creative, I would probably recommend you find someone that is a creative that can help them describe the different entries. We had a lot of questions from judging asking about paper type, how it was printed, was something embossed, was something transparent, things like that that a creative could easily answer, but someone that doesn't have to work with that every single day might not know really the best terms of how to explain it. So I do recommend having someone there on the creative side.
And for example, and that's a really good point about having a creative there, like some of the collateral pieces had a heavy stock. So I was able to say, well, this feels like 120-pound stock uncoated. And then I showed it to the screen. Or like, let's say it was a can design. And their first question was, well, is there any metallic ink used or anything like that? They were very, very curious about the general treatment of physical pieces. And they genuinely wanted to know, is there anything additional about this physical piece that I should know about? And so we went through as much as we possibly could.
Likewise, I have a quick question, John. This is Hugh. Are there tips or anything like that as far as like maybe a list of tips that we can send to people who are submitting on how to submit their work virtually to make it the best? Like, for instance, one of the things I'm thinking about is like submit a full PDF of like a brochure so they can read the content, not just a picture of it, because, half of it's the writing and you want to be able to read the writing and stuff like that. Are there any tips, or can we produce a list of tips that we can send to our members so that when they enter, they do the best thing? Well,
I'll answer that two ways, because when it comes to a lot of entries for the Addies, I suggest you doing a case study is not the right word, but sometimes people provide a story of the general piece.
Mm-hmm.
So with if they do an integrated campaign, it helps to do sort of a video that kind of compiles it all together and explains generally how it's done, and that's fully allowed within the rules. I'd also then add, you can also provide a written description. So you can do a written description and a video description. So the written description is generally 30 or 50 words long, describing the general piece, and that you can also describe. I would say a tip would be how the printing approach you might take. If it's this type of stock, well, metallic inks, UV inks, that sort of thing. That type of stuff is invaluable to a judge, I would say. I would agree, providing a PDF of, say, a collateral piece is super helpful so they can read the copy. If it's in a copy category, then that's an important thing to include as well. You know, I will say to you, a lot of this is uncharted territory.
Mm-hmm.
So we're learning as we're going. There might be more suggestions, more ideas, but right now, top of my head, doing either a video description or a written description is your best bet.
And do all of the submissions through Open Water have the ability to upload that type of information? I feel like some of them that are typically physical submissions did not allow you to upload certain types of things. And we'll have to just make sure that they're accommodating for us to be able to upload those types of things.
So let's say, for example, logos. You only have one option to upload. You can still upload the PDF, and the first page you have the written description, the second page you can actually have the logo itself, or vice versa, whichever. No, not all allow for uploading a written description or video. We've worked with National to hopefully adjust that one day to have them all have a description allowed. But as of right now, most do not. But I will say integrated campaigns, that type of campaigns always have that option.
Okay.
Cheers.
All right. Does anyone else have any other questions, concerns? Obviously, this judging virtually is one thing, and then the idea of doing your gala possibly virtually is a completely other can of worms. So if anyone has any questions about that, please let us know.
Yeah, you know, like I said, this is uncharted territory for everybody, even for judges, and especially for our audience. If you look at Emmys, Golden Globes, Oscars, they're all going to be going virtually. Even our upcoming presidential elects for Democrats and Republicans are going to do virtual conferences. So people will be expecting it. The important thing I would highly suggest now is to make a decision one way or the other, because if you are planning on paying for the expense of a gala location for the venue, that's obviously a lot of money. And generally that's done in November, December, so you can get in the window before it's taken. So consider sooner rather than later how you want to take your club. Charlotte, we're suggesting at this point that we're going to do it all virtually. And I think that the community will accept that. But they'll only accept provided the membership gets their just rewards. So consider doing a discount on your entries. It can make all the difference to helping appease your community and your membership, so they feel like they're getting their just due by being a member. With that, if anybody has any more questions.
John, I just want to let you know it's Catherine. Hi. Sorry for that terrible entrance. Everyone should know that I'm bright red while I turned my video off. So I apologize. But you actually answered one of my questions while I was typing it. And I just wanted to thank you, because I think taking things virtually, one of the biggest questions surrounding that is, how will membership feel about that? Will they feel like it's worth it to pay their dues? So kind of what you just talked about, I think is super, super important. So I just want to say thanks for answering it. And sorry again.
Well, you just made a perfect entrance. I enjoyed it. Thanks, Catherine. Yeah, you know, making sure they're getting the money they making sure they get what they put into it. AAF is super important. So whether it's a discount on your entries or something else that we haven't thought of, I mean, that's just one suggestion. There could be other approaches that you might want to consider. But like, I think at this point, if another club has a really good idea, I think other clubs will be really interested in trying them out. So as we go through the year, if you have suggestions or ideas, everybody will be all ears, because we want the awards to, awards are obviously the most successful, important aspects of AAF. And it's one that brings people back year after year. So if there's ways we can make it special for them, any other club, I'm sure, would love to hear that too.
Hey guys, I wanted to mention a while back we offered a virtual membership because some people just couldn't like leave their office, but that was for like our lunch and learns. So it was easy for us to back that price out and have it at a discounted rate because they weren't, they were not like partaking in the food or whatever. And the videos, we had, obviously you could watch it live. So if they couldn't leave their office, they could watch it live. And then we had it somewhere on the site where it was like on demand, but you had to have a login and people would forget the login, like, what's my login number? So it was that whole thing. But now, we're so used to passwords and things. So you can still have it so that people can refer to it even if they don't attend the meeting. And don't let any of those industry executives or people say, well, they're not going to send anyone, or not send, or they're going to take advantage of just that now. And that doesn't happen. People think that, but that's not the case.
Yeah. And also to add to that, something that one of Danielle's brilliant ideas is that if you've recorded the actual virtual event, you can create a vault on your website, do a password protected area, and send your membership the email. That's a nice little bonus for your membership to be able to see the event at a different time.
Well, excellent. Well, if there are no more questions, we can go ahead and cut this. But again, you have John's email address now. Also, his information is on aafdistrict3.org if you want to reach out to him at any time. We do have John put together an in-person presentation as a backup if you do want to look at that. I have a feeling majority of us all feel like virtual is probably the safest way to go. But if you want to look at it, we have that for future years. So, but thank you, John, for taking the time to do this for us today. At 3 o'clock, we will have our session on growing membership in a small market. So I hope you can attend that. And then at 4 o'clock, we will have our AAF trivia. So hopefully we'll see you guys there.
Oh, one more thing. Just want to add, I will be following up with you later in the year with just seeing how you guys are doing. So clubs, if you have a new awards person on your board, please send me your information to john@johnshoward.com, and that way we can stay in touch and I can share any new things that are happening in other clubs with you guys.
Okay, and please don't forget to, if you haven't registered for the 4 o'clock AF Trivia Social, to do so. That's it.
All right.
See y'all in almost 15 minutes. So.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.